Click the links for Odysee, Bit Chute, or to support the channel on Coffee or anonymously on crypto and the other means. So here's an interesting thing on how you can frame a narrative by simply accuse them of what we are. Accuse somebody of something. You can call someone anything. You can call anyone anything. So revealed, istophobic, alleged. Shouldn't that all this be alleged? Like, who gets to determine when these appellations are appropriate or accurate? The thing is, they really don't fear defamation cases. Like, people always think, sue. It's like, people are busy. It's expensive. It takes a lot of time. So it's like they can get away with a lot of this stuff by calling people, all this kind of stuff. Now, here's the thing with nationalism. Are you saying they seem to... this is how much power they have over the narrative, where they say, like, if you're nationalist and you're of European descent, they've equated you to these hot words, which is slowly created that these buzzword, like stochastic buzzword associations to defame people over several years. It's like, that literally, what does that word literally mean? Well, literally it means someone of European descent who's an American nationalist. That's all it means. But what is it? What is the implication of it? Well, the implication is some Hugo Boss type of thing. It's like, is that accurate? Maybe in some cases it's accurate, but definitely not in most cases. But they fear, like, they don't fear anything. They fear no redress of grievance, because most people are not in a position to go after relatively small media broadcasting for saying things that are lies by omission type of thing. Anyway, so experts are alarmed. Oh, which ones? Which experts are alarmed? And hey, what does that mean? Like, are experts also not alarmed? Yeah, basically, the whole thing is nothing. By an explicitly nationalist homeschooling curriculum circulating online and picking up new adherents. Recently launched School of the West offers only a few materials at this point. Math and science also includes content focusing on what's called a European well-being that promises to help children aged 4 and older understand the gift of being born a member of Western kind and the qualities that separate us from other groups. I'm changing some of the words for the YouTube algorithm because this is going to go on the YouTube second channel. The blatant European ideology is infused in this. Here's the thing: every other group in America can have a group association. It's if you identify as white or European or whatever you want to identify as, you can have your association. Also, I hereby give you permission for what it's worth. Every group has that. It's ridiculous to assume that the one group would not have their own pan-European identity, if that's kind of loosely what it would be called. And I mean, obviously it's hypocritical of these people who are a member of their own. They have their own ideology, their own in-group preference, obviously. But they don't want anyone else to have the same in-group preference. So then he mentions one thing from the materials, allegedly come from the materials. And then he says, again, he's putting judgments on it. He says, falsely teach that the notion of European colonization led to the spread of diseases, decimated indigenous populations, is not established historical fact. The thing is, history is written by the victors. So history is kind of real slippery. As you get older, you look at history and, like, what you're taught as a kid, and then you leave high school and you start reading outside of it and you realize, there's two sides or three sides. There's two sides to any historical occasion, and then there's the one side, left side, right side, left side, and then there's the truth. And you've got to read everything to kind of arrive at the truth. And the thing is, the stuff you're taught in school is going to be pretty far. It's going to be the accepted narrative, which doesn't mean it's going to be the truth. So yeah, the people who control the school boards and the schools, They have an axe to grind. They have a narrative to push, and it's not accurate. Homeschooling is the only way to teach kids nowadays. So this blatant European nationalist ideology is infused into some of the site's lessons on conventional subjects, history materials. Researchers identified him as former Arizona teacher Brant Williams, who left his job with one school district. It said that working in a school district large in the Native American community has reinforced his views. Okay, like, if it wasn't for these modifiers, these adjectives, I hope those are adjectives, adjectives, adverbs, it was not an English major. If it wasn't for these modifiers to modify the facts, you wouldn't have much of an article. It says his views are reinforced. But if you didn't modify that and say his views were istophobic, you would be forced into a position of, well, you don't know what his views are because the article isn't telling us what his views are. And to be fair, his views are probably complicated and nuanced and required a little bit long explanation to understand his views. But he wants to write a couple of paragraphs, and what they do, like, the news isn't the news anymore. These are all just opinion pieces. They just call something Istophobic. Like, you can call all these people anti-white. This Amy Cooter lady, you can call, like, these are anti-white globalists, which is those are great words to use and great phrases to use. And eventually they're probably going to block those on social media, because they're doing the same thing to discourse also that they're in opposition to. And the thing is, these are legitimately anti-white people. They flat out do not like people of European descent, and they're not shy about that. So they're using things like, they're calling things blatant or Istophobic, all this kind of stuff, without, like, what does blatant mean? He never explains it. It's just stochastic terrorism, where he's associating a lot of words with the victims of this defamation to associate them so they come up in a Google search with these people's names, and Istophobicism will be associated with their names. Oh yeah, and Getter banned the Groypers and Nick Fuentes for some reason. Getter also banned Lauren Southern, Milo Yiannopoulos, a bunch of kind of middle of the road right wingers. So if they're banning those people, get on Gab. Gab is the only place to have discourse. So here's the thing with kids. He allegedly told an interviewer, if I told them aliens came down and made these people in Hollywood, and now everyone in Hollywood's alien. Okay, this is out of context. I don't know what he's saying here. I don't know what you're trying to imply he's saying here. Like, that kids are impressionable. Yeah, we all know that. You need to take one line out of context. And keep in mind, the whole thing is 10 short paragraphs long. So fans of the curriculum, which promote the notoriously Istophobic Institute for Historical Reviews as a reliable resource, and maybe it is, and identifies a European Jason Cohn as a major influence, are promoting the School of the West social media groups as opposed to critical race theory. And experts are concerned that might draw some parents into right-wing extremism. So this is written by left-wing extremists, anti-white people who they have their tribalism, and they don't want you to have your tribalism. The white pill, and there are a lot of white pills, is, while I won't be on for YouTube for very long, there are various other platforms, Odysee and Bit Chute, that are live streaming. There's ways to get the message out. Between Gab and Odysee, those are, if you had to focus on two social media platforms, Gab and Odysee are amazing right now. So anyway, Amy Cooter, who's an anti-white extremist, says our political environment is more receptive to this sort of messaging at the moment. A sociologist who studies Europeanism, I'm sure that some people who would have thought of themselves as not Istophobic will buy into this. Yeah, but this feels like you wouldn't do this to any other group, so this is anti-white hatred. But it's good to call it out. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Definitely homeschool your kids. Start up micro schools. Make them as based as possible, because this is what we're up against, these ticks and leeches. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, support channel if you can. I'll see you guys all next episode.